Hi again, this will be another video on UIview Animate. And, in the last video, we created a couple boxes that slide up from the bottom of the screen. Here, we'll take a quick look. What I'd like to do in this box is kind of refactor the code here and, add a couple little options in there and talk a little more about how Animate works, right, and how you can work with it. The boxes, in my example, they slide up, but here I'm creating these boxes kind of, tediously here, right? Like I'm duplicating a lot of code. It might be good if we could like make a system that kind of, created the boxes automatically, right? So why don't we do that, right? I'm going to delete everything inside of our ViewDidLoad. And what I'll do is maybe I'll make a function here called, setup or something, right? And then we can just call our setup function from ViewDidLoad, right? Okay, so what are we going to do? Why don't we make a for loop, right? So we'll say for I in, and then we'll count from 0 to a number of boxes, right? Right, but how many boxes do we have, right? So why don't we make a variable for that? And we can change it easily, right? So we'll say let number of boxes equal, let's do 3 boxes, right? Okay, and then how big are our boxes? Well, why don't we make a variable for the rectangle that we'll use to create the default box, right? So we'll say box rectangle is 0, 0y. Maybe we'll make the width 120 and the height 60, right? I'm just arbitrary numbers, but those will be kind of okay, right? And now what we want to do is maybe place the boxes on the screen in a vertical row, right? So what we'll do is we'll first make a box. We'll say let box equal UIview a frame here, which will be box rectangle, right? And then we'll need to add this to our subview. So we'll say view.add subview box, right? And maybe we want to make the colors of the boxes all different, right? So what we can do is maybe say let hue equal some number, right? Some fraction, right? 0 to 1 is the whole color wheel. So maybe we'll take 1 divided by, if we wanted to get all the colors, we could divide by number of boxes. Why don't we start there, right? And we need to have a CG float here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this to a CG float. And then, if we do this CG float with this number will end up being a CG float, right? Okay, so we'll do that. And then now let's set the background color of our box. So we'll say box dot, background color equals UI color. And we'll type the parentheses, and then we'll choose one of these initializers. And the one I'm going to choose is hue, saturation, and brightness. So we'll set the hue that we calculated here. Saturation can be 1, brightness can be 1, alpha can be 1. Let's get rid of this thing, right? Okay, so there we go. So that's looking okay. And now we need to position the boxes. Right now our boxes will all be in the upper left corner. So why don't we move the boxes off the bottom of the screen? Or no, let's put them in the middle, right? So what we'll do is we'll say, how about, box dot center dot x equals view dot center dot x. So we'll line them up along the horizontal center line, right? And then we can say box dot center dot y equals, and I want to space them out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the this to view dot bounds dot height divided by, and then I'll need to have a CG float here, so I'll convert this to a CG float. And what I want to do is take I or no, number of boxes plus 1. Okay? And I think that looks pretty good. We'll animate them onto the screen in a minute. Let's just make sure that their ending point here is in the right spot, right? Some kind of error. Oh, I guess it just went away. There we go. Hey, there's my boxes are not in the right spot. Well, actually, you know what? They're all stacked up here. So that looks pretty good. So for a start, right? So this is number of boxes. Why don't we take this and then multiply it times, oops, I got the wrong thing there, CG float I, right? So if we divide the color wheel by the number of boxes and then multiply by the number of the box, right? So if each box is, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Then, if we divide this in, like 4 parts, then this would be 0 times, 0.25, right? And then this could be 1 times 0.25 and 2 times 0.25, right? So this way it'll cycle through the colors. And then we can do the same thing here when we set the height or the Y position of the box. So what we'll do is we'll take I again and multiply it times the, what I'll do is I'll move these over just a little bit like that so they kind of all fit on the screen. So we'll take our spacing between the boxes, which we calculated here, and then we'll multiply it by the box number. Let's see. Oh, so that's not too bad, right? So there's box 1, 2, and 3, and then we'd like to move, if we move them all over 1, the third one will be here, right? So what we'll do is right here where it says I, we'll do I plus 1. And then let's see what we get there, right? Oh, great. That doesn't look too bad, right? They're all evenly spaced. Why don't we take, just for curiosity's sake, why don't we try this? What if we did 6 boxes, right? Hey, that's not too bad, right? And they cycle through all the colors. So that's looking pretty good. So now what if we want to animate these guys, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I have the Y value here, right? But really this is like the ending Y value. So I don't want to set that value now. I really want to set the boxes, move them off the bottom of the screen for their starting position, and then animate them into view to the position that I have here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll change this a little bit, right? We'll make a variable here. We'll say let y equal this number that we calculated, right? Now I have a little more space. I could put some space around these things, right? And then what we'll do is we'll say box.center.y equals, actually, you know what? Let's put it like this. Let's say box.center.y equals, and we'll do view.bounds.height plus the y value. Okay, so this is the y where we want to end, but I'm going to take the height of the screen and move the box that height down. So imagine all the boxes on the screen, but they move down 1 screen size. So they're all exactly where they would be, but just, just off the bottom, 1 whole height of the screen, okay? And that'll be our starting place. And then we have this y value that calculates where the ending place would be, right? And then we'll just put it in, still inside the for loop here. We'll add UIview.animate with duration, and we'll choose time interval, delay, and options is the one that we want, right? So what we'll do is we'll choose time interval will be 1 second, delay will be 1 second, and animation options will be just an empty array. And then this first animations block will be the animation that we want to do, which will be box.center.y equals the y value that puts the box onto the screen, and then the completion can be nil. Okay, now we're going to make one change here. This delay, if I delayed all the boxes 1 second, then they're all going to move onto the screen together at the same time, right? But they're going to wait 1 second before they begin, and everybody's going to begin 1 second from now, right? So 1 second goes by and then they all slide up. But I'd like to stagger them. So the first box starts before this one, which is before this one, like these guys all wait, right? So that means for each successive box, we have to increase the delay, right? So why don't we put out a variable here called delay, and this has to be a time interval, right? So we'll choose time interval type here, and we'll set this to, how about I times some number. Let's put I in there and then do the times out here. Let's say times, we can do times 1 second, right? So we'll do this, and then we'll put delay right here, okay? And then we'll test it again. And see what it looks like. Oh, there we go, right? So now my timing here isn't that great, but you see the effect, right? So anyway, you can play with the numbers here and then see what you can do to make something that looks better than what I made, right? And anyway, thanks for watching, and then I hope that helps out. And we'll continue. We'll talk about some other options in the next video, okay?